in the politics of development, we tends to think we know already what should be done. And so part of our efforts made it possible for the people to be able to speak clearly, and we hope that kind of opportunity will continue to be given to the communities.
Welcome to the third and final part of this insightful 3-episode IWMI Water and Conflict podcast. I heard you clapping. Yeah, you can clap. It's a good place to clap. All right. And on this podcast series, we'll be looking at water systems in fragile and conflict-affected communities in Nigeria. Focus on 3 local governments in Adamawa State. And of course, 3 communities. That's 1 community in each of those local governments. Dumnazebu in Guyuk local government area, Malkohi in Yola South local government area, and Sangere in Gire local government area, all in Adamawa State. Don't forget that. Now, the International Water Management Institute, IWMI, in collaboration with the World Food Program, WFP, and NORAD, that's the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, have been conducting a study in these communities on the challenges people who have been affected by conflict. When we say conflict, war, insurgency, terrorism, bottom line is they've been displaced from their original habitations, and they've had to stay in camps and what have you. All right, so people affected by those conflicts are going through regarding access to water. If you didn't see episodes 1 and 2, I wish I could tell you didn't miss, but that would be a lie. So episode 1, episode 2, they're right there. Just click on them. Rich content, really, really rich content. For the avoidance of doubt, my name is Bunmi Afolabi.
Thank you very much, Bunmi. So on the last episode, we talked with 2 community members, Rahab and John, and they spoke to us extensively on what every day in the communities are like without water. Children trekking 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours just to get water, and how this even affects their health because they have to dig shallow ponds, and sometimes they drink the water like that, and when they can, they treat this water, and so it affects health, affects their education of these children, because before they come back, it's late for them to go to school, and even girls during that time of the month, absolutely unhygienic. So it was a very emotional episode, really, and very, very intense because they really spoke from the heart. You should watch it. If you didn't watch it, really, you should see it. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Christine Akume David.
All right, so without much further ado, of course, now we're trying to round off everything we've been discussing in episodes 1 and 2, and that's why you see that we have a very full house, all right? And so I could say, like the way they introduce in the wrestling, from episode 1, we have from IWMI, Dr. Adebayo. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be back here. Thank you.
And for the record, he is an agricultural water solutions expert, irrigation engineer with focus on soil and water conservation at the International Water Management Institute. All right. And then, of course, we have very good friends from the communities that's in Adamawa State. Of course, I'll introduce the lady first. We have Rahab. Rahab, you're welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you. And also we have John. John, you're
Thank
welcome.
you for inviting me.
So let's look at, key findings from the research in Adamawa State. Really, let's talk extensively on that, because I know we touched a bit of it at the last episode, but now let's be more extensive, and let our viewers know, at the end of it all, what did we find? What did you see? What was the research findings like?
The United Nations has recommended average of 50 liters of water per day, per capita, in terms of what an average person needs to meet those basic needs of drinking, washing, cleaning, all of that.
Yeah.
But you discover that in the study area, in these 3 communities, we see have people that are living well below 10 liters per day. And that's quite a challenge. So, meaning that in a day, an average person may not have access to 10 liters of water.
Needed.
No, where you need 5 times
More than that.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue that we found out, and for them to even have access to the little, even though it's not enough, it's a lot of stress, and you rightly pointed that out in your intro. The children, the women have to trek distances, 30 minutes, 1 hour, to get to where to fetch the water and to return. And when you had that level of stress to the daily challenges of living in an environment that is not originally your community, IDP camp, then you see the impact on the livelihood and the socio cultural the dynamics that goes on in such an environment. So again, in terms of even available water, the infrastructure that drives public water supply is almost non-existent, and that's also understandable. This is an environment that has suffered a lot of challenges from insurgency, from banditry, and all manner of issues. So in terms of access, in terms of quantity, availability, the ranking is quite low in all of this environment. And we can also talk about the nature of the environment itself. And what I mean by nature is the weather. We're talking about semi-arid environment where rainfall
Static.
It's not just static, it's low. It's low, and that drives the quantity of water that is even available. In other words, in such an environment, a lot of investment will be required, to conserve whatever that's available, which currently is not what it's supposed to be. So we also talk about the impact in terms of gender dynamics. These are the traditional communities where the bulk of domestic issues around water lies heavily on the women and the girl child. So that is very pronounced in that environment. Early in the morning, women and children, girl child have to travel.
As early as 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Girls going out. And
the risks are there. And the impact on the health is also very pronounced. So these are multi-level layer challenges that people are facing. So in terms of policy, there's still gap, and we can look at issues around investment in strategic investment towards improving infrastructure in the environment. Look at the specific commitments over time. What's the where we are now? What are the specific action that has been planned to take the issue from where it is now to where it should be in the next 3 years, in the short term, medium term, and long term. Those kind of policy statements, there's still a lot of gaps and there's a lot of expectation. And again, for us in this part of the world, we need to also look at our planning strategies. And we see those gaps. The population is there. Population is increasing at 3%, 3.5%, depending on which part of Nigeria you are, and of course in the north around 3%. So is our infrastructure and investment in water systems commensurate to this population rate? These are key questions that we have to that the findings, the research findings also amplified. So these are some of our top outcomes of the research activities, and there's also the creating platform. They need to create platform for people to actually bring out what they consider as their need, what they consider as their experiences, and that will go a long way in addressing those issues to the extent that it will be pleasing to them. Many times also in the politics of development, we tend to think we know already what should be done. And so part of our efforts made it possible for the people to be able to speak clearly, and we hope that that kind of opportunity will continue to be given to the communities, going forward. Yeah.
All right, rightly put, sir. So let me come to Rahab and John, then we'll come back to you, on the research. For the Photovoice project, what are some of the fascinating things, that you discovered, or should I say unraveled, in the course of this? Again, I'll go ladies first.
During that Photovoice project, we saw most of the challenges that communities are passing through in terms of accessibility to water, which there is limitation. And also, most of the sources of water, the available ones in which the community try to put their hands together in order to alleviate most of these challenges, especially once if there is no light. They resolve into building some of these wells, which are far away from most of the houses, and then most of the water are contaminated water, in the sense that they are fetching from the well, because the depth of the well has not reached the water level.
The water table,
and at times, surface water are run into that well and contaminated water, which is not hygienic. And it can cause a lot of diseases. It is during rainy season we talk about washing all these open feces into
the well,
which can cause cholera and some other typhoid and the rest. So the water is not, I think it's not good for drinking at times. If you look at the shallow wells, most of them are contaminated. Like I said in the previous episode, once there is no light, there is access restriction to water, because most of the boreholes are built by individuals. And which I think this is where I think the government should come in, at least that not everybody can afford this borehole. If you look at the situation of the country now, if you're building borehole, if you're drilling borehole, I think you will think about 1-point-something million now for you to be able to drink.
Sure
perhaps a lot more now.
A lot more.
A lot more now.
Drink drill a borehole. And how many Nigerians can afford that money? So the government should come in at this point. They should revive the water treatment plant and the rest. So in those days, I can see pipe water in every house. So what is wrong with this? They need to revive all this. And then there are some strategic areas they can build boreholes. Let me just say the solar ones, which they can pipe it to various houses, so that the people can access it. Even the children, it can alleviate their suffering. The aged people among us, it will also alleviate, because you can go to your tap and fetch the water. So like my doctor was saying, the conservation part of it, looking at the climate. Now in Adamawa State, it is even a month now, there has not been no rain there. So the other part, there are some policy makers or learned people that can know, bring out policies on how to conserve this water, to alleviate the suffering of our people in that community, and looking at the population also. As you have said, the infrastructure has to commensurate with the population.
Exactly.
So looking at the whole Photovoice, there is challenges with regard to water scarcity.
Thank you very much.
Let's come to John. Any other fascinating facts that she probably hasn't mentioned, or you didn't mention any of in the previous episode?
This Photovoice, helped us a lot and benefited from these projects. From the beginning, we say we don't know the benefit or meaning of this project. At the end, as it goes, we come to see the importance of
Became
the
clear like the light of day.
Yes. Which means, so aim of the research was to identify the environmental issue relating water and water management and how does it affect and to mitigate. Now it has even brought a lot of things apart from the water, where we use the photo voice to get food, financial support, and so many things.
Now you understand
Really,
my
because-
grouse when I was
Exactly.
uneasy when there was all talk about women are the one fetching
Women
water.
doing everything.
I mean, I wouldn't have agreed, but I would have even rested a bit if you said the men go stroll with them.
Exactly, because
Even if they
imagine-
don't fetch the water, even though that's not acceptable, but let's even say they even go with them for protection. Because if you're
Exactly.
walking around 2 a.m., 3
3
a.m.,
a.m., 4
even in the
a.m.,
metropolitan city where I live,
Risky.
You
2
can't even
a.m.,
go out
3
at 2
a.m.
a.m. or 3.
you're not in your car.
And then-
because there's a stiff competition, you know, for the very small.
For the very small
Yeah,
water.
so you just have to find a way to wake up early
And get there
and-
before others.
And get
get
there
to
before
do
that.
that.
So there's that competition. I
Serious
have to get there even if it's
competition,
1
you know.
a.m., 2 a.m. So do they even sleep? Really?
Yeah. If
I mean-
if you
Because by the time
delay-
you're done with fetching water,
You have to do
cooking,
chores too.
do chores, and all
And then
of
go
that,
back and still look for another water in the evening or something.
because the cycle continues.
Exactly.
And that was why, when we're asking them in the previous episode, that's why I said if you didn't watch the previous episode, you have to go back. You see the reasons now. Going through this for 10 years
much more.
and maybe more, that's just putting it lightly, every day. It's not as if you fetch today, then today's water will be sufficient. You heard when
Sufficient. It's
doctor
not-
said what a human being needs by UN estimates is about 50 liters.
Liters.
And
Yeah.
people are getting less
Less
than
than
10
that.
liters. So that means what is you are even getting today is not sufficient,
sufficient
for tomorrow.
for
So
at all.
every day the cycle continues.
Continues
And
every day.
maybe, let me ask, maybe where you got water today, tomorrow,
You might not even get water from that same source. And then you can just imagine. There's that imbalance already.
So as I said, our source of water are from streams and wells, and they are long distance. So they have to trek about 2-3 hours, 3 kilometers before they came back home. At least they have wasted time, which they will not get time
They
to
don't
cook
get
for their
back.
children to go to school.
Yeah.
Which means that it affects education background
Yeah.
of the children and also productivity of the family. They almost spend their time on searching for water,
Water.
which means they will not have time to go for a business or go for farming.
nothing.
Yeah.
So it really affects IDPs especially, because IDPs are vulnerable. They have no capital, nothing, and they cannot afford to buy a 1 cart of water, which is around 1,500. What will they do? What business will they do to get this 1,500 per day? No.
So I know that Rahab has, talked about some recommendations from her own perspective. But as the chairman of the IDP camp now, let's look at it from your own perspective. So what recommendations would you speak of,
So we need your support. The support that is, we need more source of water, either from the government, non-governmental organizations. We need your support for IDPs to get relief, because we are in danger of health, productivity, as said. So we need your support really.
Thank
We
you.
have hope in this program. They are the first people to take their time to go across the state searching for such issues.
Wow.
Yes. So
Wow.
we need your support really.
The first.
Yes.
So that means the issue has just been
The
lying
Just
there.
been
Lying.
lingering.
line low
There
there.
is no organization or government that came into this matter to go round, or to go across the state to look into this issue.
That's quite disheartening.
Very, really. Yeah. So let's come back to Dr. Adebayo, right?
Right.
So really, what has been done in terms of advocacy so far? I know, yes, we've talked about the project and all of that, but let's still, throw light on this part of it. What has been done really in terms of advocacy so far?
Well, in terms of advocacy, our efforts in Adamawa State has not been like, we're on our own kind of it. We have consistently worked with the government, the state government, and IDP. It's not the ideal. IDP and the communities that we are discussing. That's not what any government will be proud of. The first responsibility of the government at whatever level is to make the citizens comfortable. We want them to have the best of life. And the commitment is there here also in our country and this in the state in particular. So there's a lot of effort that's going on about support for the IDPs and this we had a meeting after after the research itself. We had a meeting to share the findings where the stakeholders were invited, government ministries, ministries of agri, of water, the women affairs and all kind of people. We had a representative of different NGOs working within that environment, the academia, and very wide spectrum of stakeholders. And then where these findings were discussed, where it was tabled, and then everybody could acknowledge, the reality that is before us. So that's.
But before you go on, I'm just curious to ask.
Yes, please.
Were they surprised?
Well, I mean, if I even bring some of our experience from the validation workshop, because we had the validation workshop where we presented the findings and we expect the stakeholders to in small groups look at all those issues in details. There are no surprises, really. There are no surprises. We know that these issues are real. Issues of water systems, water availability, water access, water quality of life as it affects access to water and sanitation. They're here with us. They get aggravated as we continue to have increase in population, and even much more as we have challenges with terrorism and all that. So it wasn't really like not new. The issue now is we were able to put figures to it. Perhaps people now could see that, this is bigger than we had envisaged. And so that level of interaction with the stakeholders has been established, and we hope we'll still take it further.
But from that interaction, what was the outcome from the stakeholders?
Okay, the first response from these stakeholders is to understand that this is the time to do something, to do something differently, and to begin to look at appropriate policy that will, if we are not able to provide 50 liters per capita, maybe we'll move it from 10, 15 to 20 to 30. This must be a clear commitment that will drive policy in the days to come. So that understanding of the reality on ground was well accepted by the stakeholders. Again, the people, the different layers of a stakeholder that we interacted with, further realize that there must be a new investment. There must be a new layer of investment in building, revamping existing water infrastructure and building new ones.
Yeah.
Building new ones because the population we have today and the projection definitely what's on ground may not be able to cope with it.
If there is even already an issue,
If-
imagine
exactly.
the projection of
Yeah.
increase.
So the reality is that while we must work together to revamp what's on ground, we must begin to make clear projections
Exactly.
towards the future.
Okay, so
So a new level of investment in
Has to
water and water systems.
Okay,
And,
so are there tentative, not on IWMI now, I'm just
No,
curious
we
about the
don't even
stakeholder.
have that
Yeah, of
resource.
course, I know you don't even.
we wish you have the
That's not,
resources to do that.
I know you said that at the beginning. That's not your mandate. So, but because you were in that workshop, that's why these questions are coming up. Are there possible timelines? Because even as we're in the studio here, there are still people looking for water.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's not that it's ended.
So are there possible timelines? Did you get the stakeholders saying, okay, in 6 months we will do this, in 1 year we will do this? Was there anything like that?
Well, from what we've done so far, perhaps we may not. I'm not happy to
I
say
mean,
that.
I'm not saying you should speak for any of them. You could just, just a blanket thing and say,
Yeah.
oh,
Exactly.
they said within 6 months. They said
Within
within a year.
this,
Within the scope of this project,
Yes.
Okay.
we've not been able to lay our hands on that kind of
that
commitment.
kind of commitment.
Okay.
But I have no doubt that within the wider government planning,
Yeah.
the government engagement and the plan, there may be some specific commitment towards bringing these issues, and addressing it frontally in the days to come. But currently, we are pushing towards the fact that there must be that commitment. It must be clear.
Yeah.
It must be clear.
Not
it must
just,
be clear.
we've heard we'll
it
do
must
something.
It must be clear. It must be well communicated.
Yes.
To the people.
Exactly.
Because like you just add them, and it is not they just coming up with just something. This is like the voice of the people.
Yeah.
We work
Exactly.
with them. We knew what they're facing. This is like what the people are saying. Look, we don't know what's going to happen with the water system in the future. It's getting drier. The shallow groundwater is getting insufficient. So there's this apprehension about what the future holds in terms of water supply. So even if the government has such plans, the time is now to get it communicated.
Exactly.
And we may not solve all the problem across all the community in one day.
Yeah, but at
But
least.
But
at
at
least
least, yes.
there should be
So
steps.
industrial boreholes, the solutions are pretty available, in terms of the type of boreholes. The individual could sink one maybe for himself, his family, and extend few liters of water to people around him. But that may not go far.
Yeah, but it will start alleviating.
Yes.
the
So, but the
suffering.
government could do something deeper and bigger, where you could have solar powered, water, taking advantage of the groundwater, lifting it up in such a way that many more people. So we could have cluster of water supply sources like that, across a number of IDPs and in the wider community in Adamawa State. That is possible. That is beyond what 1, 2, 3 people could do. That is something that the state will have
Has to take up.
We are going to have, maybe in the next year, we are doing 100 of this cluster.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be a policy statement that will be made very clear.
Very clearly.
And in the last episode, we mentioned something around, revamping the water treatment plants and all that, because ultimately, public water supply is where we should go.
Yeah.
When we are much younger, that is the in thing. You look forward to it as a place where you gather, and for those who are a bit well-to-do, they go to the water corporation and file in their papers, and they bring the water to their house.
Bring the water to them.
So we still have that challenge of taking advantage of some of our dams around.
Yeah.
The dams are there, but it takes a little more beyond the dams and reservoir to establish a proper water treatment plant
Yeah.
and put appropriate pump capacity in place that will push the water from that place to where it is needed. You know, these are capital investments, but maybe 1 or 2 in a year. Next year, another one is added to the stream, and then we can get there gradually. Yes. Maybe on the part of people also is the ownership of these infrastructures, because sometimes, and whether the people that are trying to show their grievance to the government, you know, in terms of terrorism and all that, whatever may be the issue around that. The fact is, ultimately, whatever infrastructure that is destroyed is our own.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, whether under protest or terrorism, banditry, when we destroy public infrastructure like water systems, it affects everybody ultimately.
Even you who destroyed it.
The issue is, within this part of Nigeria, it is projected that we're going to have less and less of rainfall. Climate change realities
is hitting on us.
Is there. So we have to double our game in maximizing and optimizing what we are receiving.
Exactly.
So we need now to employ strategic conservation, both for agricultural practices. In other words, conserving the water for irrigation, and then conserving the water in such a way that it could be made available for domestic water supply also. So those technologies are there. Some we know already. Some we can form some kind of alliance with relevant, friendly organizations and countries.
And then things like groundwater can start popping up and all of that. Okay, so let's come back to Rahab and John. So I know that, of course, you have a vision, right? What you hope for, what you wish. So what is the future of Adamawa State, you know? How do you envision it? What do you hope it looks like in a few years to come? In terms of water, of course. Water secure future for Adamawa State look like to you?
So what I'm hoping for is to see there is going to be availability of water resources where children can go and fetch water from the taps in their houses or in a close by strategic areas, which will not waste their time, which will not stress them. They will go and fetch it in time, use it, and then go to school in time. Even the female, that's the girl children.
The girls, girl child.
The girl child, even during her period, she will have access to water so that she will look healthy and comfortable. She will go to school in time and come back. Then breakfast will be ready at time. Not because of breakfast, one will not even go to school because there is no water to prepare breakfast in time. So the child may decide not to go to school. So should we have access to water, breakfast in time? As it let the life would be
comfortable. And water flowing in the houses too, so they don't even have to worry about even going to fetch water. You can just enter the bathroom and then that's it.
Just
open
it
up. Easy.
Just like the one we're enjoying the hotel now.
I agree with you, absolutely. And even their mental health will also improve. A whole lot.
You know, they'll just go and open the shower and take bath.
And they're good.
You know how happy you are when you know you have taken your bath in the morning.
Fresh, no stress. Children are.
So, John, do you want to add to that? Or she has already captured it?
She has captured it, but to me, what all she has said is what
is in order.
What I have in mind. But water is life. Any budget, the number one agenda is supposed to be water. Because without water, there is nothing you can do. Whether you have food items, any type of food items, if there is no water, you can't cook. Right. So in agenda, we don't bring or put water into second or third batch. It's supposed to be first priority is water.
All right. So as we gradually come to the closing this up, let's take any final thoughts. Let's start with Dr. Adebayo.
Yes,
final thoughts on
towards water
future.
secured and safe Adamawa, one would expect adequate planning. And in terms of immediate intervention, towards ensuring that there's a water secured community, there are immediate investment that's one would appeal and ask that the government should give attention to, and that would be very, very important in terms of some immediate infrastructure. Borehole, some of the dams that can be revamped. It's very, very important. And those, it may not be to solve all the problem, meet the need of millions of people.
Exactly.
But let us start.
Because when those kind of steps are being taken, even if they haven't gotten to your community yet, you hear about it.
Hope.
It gives you hope.
Exactly.
That's right.
Hope is stirred up. Yeah.
And then I also want to emphasize more effort in taming insecurity. A lot is going on.
Major.
Government, federal, states, all the stakeholders, everybody is cracking their head on how to address the insecurity in the Northeast. And we acknowledge that a lot is going on.
Done.
But we still need to double our effort.
Double effort.
More
Absolutely.
effort.
Because of water, a girl should not be raped.
No.
Why?
Women should not be abused because they are looking for water to cook for the family.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like, is that not an exaggeration in this story? There's no exaggeration.
It's not.
This is
I
real.
heard from them.
If you wake up in the morning and you have access to water, you may not quickly
You can't relate.
with the reality
with
of
what
somebody
exactly.
waking up and there is no.
To go and look for water.
And it's not that, okay, well, maybe today the corporation is not supplying water. In 2 hours' time, water will start running. No, there's no hope anywhere.
No, you can't relate.
And the reason why there's urgency about this, advocacy about this matter, is because the climate change is also going to compound
The
many
problems.
things. So the earlier we
you
put that
better.
thinking cap
The
and
better.
begin to see, okay, what are the things we need to do in the immediate, what are the things we need to do in the near future and in the distant future, the better for everyone.
And it has to be done urgently. I've actually slept in those kind of communities while doing development work. So I can relate. I mean, communities where we went to and slept overnight, and in the morning we couldn't bath. So we all just entered the vehicle and with our smelly mouths and smelly bellies and went to where work was taking us to next. So we can relate. So final thoughts from Rahab and John as well. Let's hear you. Who wants to go first? Okay, he wants Rahab to go first. He was looking at you. Yes, he wants you to go first.
So final words, what would you like the audience to hear,
That you probably haven't mentioned and,
If you don't have the final words, it's still okay.
It's fine.
It's not
a must.
Let the water come.
Let the water come.
That's
Let
just
the
it.
water come, really. Let the water come.
Intervention.
Need intervention. Because I don't think there's anybody that can't practically relate to this thing. In the sense that at least you've gone maybe a day without water at some point in your life. Even if it's when you were in school, when you were growing up.
Let's not open that school chapter.
No, let's not open that school chapter.
Let's
really.
just leave that.
Understand?
Just
Or
leave
even
off your
recently.
mic on that school chapter.
Turn it off. And then imagine that this is some
Daily
people's
experience.
reality
Daily.
every
Daily
single
Daily.
day. Like this is their reality every day. So really a lot has to happen and fast. Good planning, like because he mentioned it's good planning because it's one thing to plan, but let the planning be proper. Like
And
and
quick.
then quick and then action. Because it's wanted to plan. You plan and then okay, we've written it down. What happens next? So that
Execution.
action has to take place really fast.
Really
fast. Really fast.
Wow.
Bunmi, at this point, I think we can say that it's been a really impactful, eye-opening, and very interesting 3 episodes so far. Really interesting.
Yeah. And please, again, we cannot overemphasize, share the content. Share the content, okay? Share the content through whatever platform you have, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, anything. Just share it till it gets into the hands that can fast track these plans.
Exactly.
And turn them into reality.
Well,
it's a wrap.
It's a wrap on it.
We say a very big thank you
you.
to
Thank you,
IWMI, to all the partners, to Dr. Adebayo, to Rahab, to John. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for joining in this advocacy. What's the word? Help me with the word.
Advocacy move.
Advocacy move, yeah. With IWMI. Thank you very much. My name is Christine Akume David.
Thank you. My name is Bunmi Afolabi. It's a wrap.
Thank you.